So concerning my opinion on Iraq, I need to be careful because I want to say some things, but at the same time, I'm trying to get a job with the government, and I don't want what I say to negatively impact me. When I go in there, or to deny me a job if possible. So I don't want to come off as political, or accuse anybody in the politics. And then try to get a job with the government. So I have to be careful about that. So whatever I say that does seem political, whatever, it's just an opinion, and it's not meant to reflect how what I feel, and it's not going to affect my ability to work for the government. I just wanted to say, um, Dwight D. Eisenhower, when he came out of office as president, he gave a speech and he warned about the military-industrial complex. And I think, and this came up in a movie recently, and I believe it was called Why We Fight. But I believe this is important because I think the military-industrial complex has affected the U.S. military's ability to operate, and it's negatively affected the way we've been able to operate in Iraq. Um, so if there is something to blame for the problem with Iraq, I think it's this idea that the reliance on contractors. Um, any other time, whenever the U.S. military went into a country and did something, they rebuilt the country, and the way they did that is through the Army Corps of Engineers, and this was the case in Germany and the case in Japan as well. And it was this idea, part of the uh, uh, I forget his name, but it was a doctrine, and it's basically part of like there was the Warsaw Pact and there was the NATO. But it was basically this idea that when you conquer a country, you need to invest in it. You need to put money into that country and to build up its infrastructure, and that is what the U.S. Army's that's what the U.S. is doing in Iraq. But who they're giving the money to is wrong, in my opinion. They should have been giving the money to the Iraqis. There was a report that came out on NPR shortly after victory was declared, and it was of contracts being given out, saying like, oh, well, we need this and that. And there are, the thing to remember is that there were Iraqi companies in the country that were used to satisfying the needs of the country, and these same companies, they would go to this bidding for these American contracts, and they would be a company that was normally used to dealing with like delivering 500 washing machines. They would get an order for like, well, we need 50 staplers, and they're like, what, this is the joke, we can't, we don't operate on these small numbers, we do big things, they were being denied these contracts. And as time went on, the Iraqi companies, they're getting fed up with the Americans because they said, you're not giving us jobs, you're not, and it's like, well, and the Americans are like, well, look, we will give you these little contracts, and then if you prove reliable on them, then we'll give you bigger contracts. But I think the problem was that they weren't doing it fast enough, and also there were a lot of contracts out there, and they were all going to Americans. And in some cases, it would be like two guys who say, "Oh, well, we know what we can do. We'll take this contract," and it would take a million, a couple $1 million contract, and then turn around and sell it to another company. They would sell the contract to another company and make a profit off it, and it could just be two guys who aren't even part of an established company. I mean, so there's war profiteering going on. And I think Halliburton is part of it too. And unfortunately, there is the connection of Halliburton and Vice President Dick Cheney, which you really, I'm surprised that's not more of a concern. But maybe I'm mistaken about that. Maybe the Vice President is not as connected to Halliburton. But I think though that is a problem, and I think the U.S. generals maybe realize that the contractors are a problem too, and that's why they're asking for more troops, because they can't directly complain to the Secretary of Defense and say, we need to get rid of these contractors because, there's the conflict of interest because there is, it's basically part of your chain of command is, invested in this American industry and contractors, and it's like, and they want a certain thing to happen that way. So they kind of out and out say, we don't like how you're running the war. Um, and that's one of the things about the military. They can't complain and criticize, their leaders.